Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Gaming Mix podcast, your official podcast from analogstickgaming.com. Of course, if you don't know me by now, I'm one of the co-owners, Jordan, and to my right, as always, we have the founder, Jeff. How are you doing, Jeff?
Not too bad. A little tired, and thankfully it hasn't been terribly cold. I think the rest of the North America is taking all of the snow.
Yes.
So
yes, our good friend Keith, we're wishing him well right now because he was actually shoveling snow outside of his house the other day and slipped over and bashed his head on his car. So yeah,
I don't think that's how you shovel snow.
No, I don't either. But yeah, our well wishes to our good friend Keith Mitchell. We have a very big episode today because, as you see from the headline of the episode, WWE 2K26 has just been revealed, and we have lots of details for you. And perhaps I might even have some extra details because I actually attended a behind closed doors developer Q&A recently. So we will talk about that when we get to it. But I guess that given the Royal Rumble is very soon, Jeff, we should probably start with one last conversation about that because we did obviously speak a little bit about it last week.
Yeah.
However, apparently ESPN decided to just ruin a return. So if you don't want to know anything about the Royal Rumble, close your ears for about 60 seconds and come back in a moment. But who looks like they are returning at the Royal Rumble, Jeff?
Oh, Seth Rollins is totally winning the Rumble.
Yeah. Like, and his face when they said what they said, you could tell it's like, why the hell did you just say that? Like, people aren't supposed to, and we all could have kind of guessed anyway. But yeah, it's it makes me think that everything is going to go the way that we discussed it going last week. The only thing about the Rumble that I'm still not 100% on is whether AJ is going to win or lose.
Yeah, like there's like I would say about 80% of the evidence is going towards him losing. But then, like with Triple H saying that he had a list of people that he wanted to fight, who knows? But they may think they're trying to be like clever and swerving us that he's gonna win or whatever. But I don't know.
And also the other thing is they could do something interesting where like maybe they have him lose on purpose, but in a way that doesn't end his career. Maybe it's like
A double count out.
Yeah, maybe it's something like that, and then they could potentially send him off to TNA and like they can. Because I would imagine AJ being so synonymous with TNA, I would be shocked if this year we don't at least get one match of AJ Styles in TNA before he finishes his career.
Yeah, they'll definitely do that. I mean, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he pops up on AEW to fight like Kenny Omega or something.
Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting to see. And obviously it's coming very, very soon. But I guess now we should have a quick word from our sponsor before we get into the major news of the day.
Alrighty, let me bring it up.
Bring it up.
All right. So this is the exact same deal that we were talking about last week. At NordVPN, you can save up to 70% on their 2-year plans right now, dropping the price down from $14.69 Canadian down to $4.29 Canadian per month. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, and if you continue your subscription, you're putting money in our pocket, as we're going to actually see some revenue from that. But if you want to explore the web with kind of way more freedom than you currently are, especially if you are interested in some of the shows that Netflix has, but maybe your region doesn't carry it. This is the perfect way of getting it around. You can also use this to kind of get around to the WWE, of how it's essentially programmed on Netflix as opposed to ESPN or other.
Yes. Yeah, there are even territories where the original WWE network still exists. So, there are options in terms of that. But then the other thing to, of course, say is a VPN just offers you a lot of protection online in terms of making it harder for criminals out there to steal your data and track things that you're doing. So I really would, like, at the current price they're offering it at, I would really recommend at least trying it for a month and just see, because it's like a cup of coffee essentially.
No, it's
and I think
really
it's a great
good
deal.
And you can get that deal at nordvpn.com/analogstickgaming and start saving and surfing the web safely today.
Nice. Now, I think I wouldn't normally start with the biggest piece of news, but I think that we probably should, Jeff, being WWE 2K26 being revealed, because we, of course, have lots of details here to share with people. So where do we want to begin?
Let me bring up the press release here. All right. So today, 2K announced WWE 2K26. The game will be available starting from March 6th, and that will be available on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC via Steam. We're looking at CM Punk. He is going to be on the Standard Edition. We're also going to have the King of Kings edition, which features Triple H, and then an Attitude Era edition that is going to feature Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Stephanie McMahon, Undertaker, Kane, Trish Stratus, Lita, Chyna, Kurt Angle, and the Dudley Boys. There's also a Super Premium, which is going to be the Monday Night War edition, which features the above characters pitting off against Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Goldberg, Booker T, and even Eric Bischoff himself. Now, the Standard Edition will be available on Friday, March 13th, so a full 7 days before. And the game with the standard cover featuring CM Punk,
which you can see right there.
Yeah. So as this is straight from CM Punk himself. As a kid, I could only dream of being on the cover of a video game. Now I joined a very exclusive group of WWE superstars who have done it twice. I enjoyed the experience of narrating the 2K showcase, which gave me an opportunity to tell fans the straight, unfiltered story of the moments, matches, and controversies in my career. Players will get to step into my boots, relive some of my proudest WWE moments, and take on challenges I never had the opportunity to face. So the mode right now is centered around like the showcase mode, which is called Punked, is going to be detailing CM Punk's personal journey. So narrated by the best in the world himself, players will relive iconic matches and battle against WWE legends in fantasy warfare. For those who want to truly prove their mettle, the Showcase Gauntlet looks to push players to their limits. CM Punk's rise, rebellion, and return makes this the most personal 2K showcase yet. They're also boasting a roster of over 400 wrestlers. Now, again, this is going to be like, 90
multiple editions of certain things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you got 400 characters there. You got 4 new match types that are going to be added, which is I Quit, Inferno, 3 Stages of Hell, and Dumpster. We got stackable tables, new usable objects, including shopping carts and thumbtacks, and larger interactive environments offering new but familiar ways to punish opponents. They've also got a body morphing part addition to the creative suite. So we're going to be seeing a lot more flexibility in your creative wrestlers. You're now going to have 200 creative superstar save slots. So you're going to see a lot of your favorite creators creating even more characters now to upload. You've still got the IGM mode, which is going to add that. Is you're going to have new intergender matches, 5, 6, and 8-man matches, plus support for more matches, more match types than ever before. My Rise returns. You've got the draft, so you'll be able to play around with that. The Island is back and bigger than ever, and it's now available on PC.
Yes. Yeah.
The My Faction is the collectible card battle mode is back with new intergender lineups and quick swap matches as well. It's also worth pointing out that with the Island, you're now picking from one of 3 factions for control with a revamped progression system. So there's a lot of really cool stuff there. And you're going to get a lot of superstar voiceovers, which kind of makes it may feel a little bit more personal as opposed to just reading dialogue.
Yeah,
now, the Ringside Pass, which is an upgrade for its post-launch content, is a little bit different now.
Yes.
So the all-new Ringside Pass offers players additional incentive to play, earning experience across all game modes, excluding online lobbies. 60 free tier and 40 premium tiers will be available to reward gameplay, with players who can reach the tier 40 of the Ringside Pass premium season able to unlock superstars, cosmetics, and customization items, VC, My Faction, and the Island content, and much more. The Ringside Premium Pass also replaces the previous DLC model, rewarding players with all new playable characters unavailable on the base game roster, including current superstars, legends, personas, and some unexpected names. 6 Ringside Pass seasons are planned to roll out throughout the year, with Ringside Pass Season 1 available at launch and featuring unlockable superstars and legends previously available in the WWE 2K Supercharger on the free tier. So this is them kind of getting rid of the basic DLC model and kind of turning it into a battle pass.
Yeah.
So it's
as a way of keeping people engaged with the game over a longer period of time. So I think it's a smart move. And in the developer Q&A, they actually spoke about this a bit more. And what they said is you're roughly going to end up with the same amount of characters as when you would buy the DLC previously.
Yeah.
However, this is more about like being able to offer additional content in other ways. For example, they mentioned the personas here, and one of the things that I know has been a big issue for people in the past is like earning these persona cards in My Faction to then unlock them in the game to use elsewhere has been quite a grind. And I think that putting some of these personas into the Battle Pass means that people don't even necessarily have to play the My Faction mode to unlock these personas for use elsewhere in the game, right? So that's a really good...
Now, did they talk about, because obviously this is a Battle Pass, and when you get to the next season, are you still able to access the previous season?
So they kind of did and kind of didn't. They didn't explain exactly how it worked, but they did say that if you miss the opportunity to unlock them during a season, they won't be gone. Like, you can still get them somehow, but they didn't clear up exactly how that's going to work yet. Okay. So from what I understand, at least for the main pieces of content, such as superstars and things, you are going to be able to get them after a season finishes.
Gotcha. So some additional features about the game as well as the standard edition will be available for $70 US. Now the pre-order bonus offer. So players who pre-order the WWE 2K26 standard edition will receive the Joe Hendry pack, which is a bonus pack of containing playable superstar Joe Hendry, a Joe Hendry shirt cosmetic item, and a Joe Hendry My Faction Evo card, and even a Joe Hendry Spin Island emote. Players who pre-order any edition for 2K26 for PS5, Xbox Series X, or PC will receive the base game digital. Players who pre-order the Attitude Era Edition or Monday Night Edition on PlayStation, Xbox, or January 29th and February 23rd at AM will receive 15,000 VC.
That's interesting. So just going back slightly there,
Yeah.
Players who pre-order any edition of WWE 2K26 will actually get the base game of 2K25 for free.
Oh, that's what. I thought it was a little. I
this.
thought it was like really weirdly worded, but
because it says we'll also receive the WWE 2K25 base game in digital format. So that's actually really cool.
So that's almost like requesting like the 2K25 base game, and then you also get the 2K24 when you're asking for it for code.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. But what a way, and you know, I know there's going to be, while we're on the subject of editions here, and we'll talk about what the other ones include in a minute, I know that there is going to be some pushback on having so many different editions and things.
Yeah.
But I actually kind of like it because it allows you to buy whatever one that you want, and you're not, if, for example, in the King of Kings edition, right, you get the game, you get the premium pass for season 1, you get 32,500 VC, and you get additional playable superstars such as a Triple H 98 version and a Stephanie McMahon 2000 version. You also get a Triple H taunt for the island. If you only want the Triple H stuff and you don't want the other DLC, you would buy that edition. Why are you going to go up to the other ones, you know? So I think that having more editions isn't necessarily a negative in my mind, but I do understand that some people are going to push back on it because it's going to feel like they're kind of sparsing out content. But as we go through the editions here, one thing you'll realize is as you go up this ladder, obviously the cost increases, but every step on the editions ladder includes all of the content from the editions below it as well. So
yeah, because the one thing that's nice is like the Attitude Edition, which is $30 more. It gives you access to the ringside pass for seasons 1 to 4. So you're getting quite a bit there. You're also getting a whole bunch of other characters like Stone Cold, Rattlesnake, and the People's Champs, like all the animations for the island, like the Undertaker's thumb.
So you're getting a lot of Attitude Era based stuff. You're getting a lot more
100,000 VC.
Yeah, you're getting a lot more VC, and you're getting 4 seasons out of 6 seasons for the premium pass. Yeah. You know, and at the moment, we don't know what the cost of the individual premium pass will be after the fact.
Yeah, because the Monday Night War edition is only $20 more after that, and it gets you all 6 seasons. It also gets you some playable superstars such as Macho Man Randy Savage 98, Roddy Piper 98, WCW 98 Arena, Diamond Dallas Page's Bang Emote for the island as well. Yeah. And you also still get the 100,000 VC. You get 3 WrestleMania 42 Superstar Persona cards, as well as the 7-day launch ahead of the standard edition. Yes. So there is a lot that's kind of there as well, and it's really neat to see them kind of embracing this era, because a lot of people think the Attitude Era was like the best WWE ever was.
Absolutely, a lot of people do think that. For
I wonder if they'll have like a mini game where Edge and Lita are in the bed in the ring, and there's like a God of War like mini game. You think they'll do that? Like Kurt Angle comes out.
That'd be funny. But yeah, I am very, very I'm impressed. I do think that there's going to be some pushback on certain elements here. Okay, I don't think everyone will be happy with the change to going to a ringside pass situation rather than a straight up you can buy these characters kind of situation. But in my opinion, it brings them in line with other modern games and the way that modern games do things, which is trying to keep you engaged in playing the game for a longer period of time. And I think that as long as the cost is around the same for the premium passes as it would have been for the previous DLC packs, then I don't think it's really an issue. It's if they start charging you significantly more for these premium season passes than they would have previously charged for DLC, then I think it could be more of a problem.
When has TKO ever raised the price of like the expected, money around a WWE product?
Yeah, true. Very true.
When have they ever done that? Name 5 examples. Yeah, like it's. I mean, my guess is that it's probably going to be somewhere between $12 and $15 per pass, Canadian.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And what I think's interesting about the ringside pass in particular is that it opens up the possibility in the future of this being more a live service style game, as we've discussed in the past. Like, if they're going to have ringside passes, obviously they're only doing 6 this year, right? But in future entries, what's to say that they won't do 1 ringside pass every month? And maybe every month they'll give you a batch of new superstars, And I also think that it will allow them, like I said, to give more people access to content such as the personas for different superstars that they may not have previously earned if they didn't engage in My Faction, because not everybody is going to play My Faction. However, I do want to mention My Faction because they mention it briefly here in the press release. But one of the things they talked about in the Q&A that I was part of, and you can read more about that over on the Outer Haven, hopefully later today, is the quick swap matches. Because the way these work is you will select a superstar card to start a match with, and during the match you can literally hop swap to another card. And it's instantaneous. So you can swap to another superstar if one of your superstars is, say, low on health. You then swap to another superstar, and then maybe you want to swap back because you go, oh, I've almost got a finisher on this superstar, so I'll swap back now. And it kind of adds this. They were talking about how it adds this tactical element of figuring out when to swap cards and when not to swap cards, and it also gives you a way of kind of almost like having a second chance by being able to swap a card if you're low on health with one of your other superstars. I think a really big thing, which we did mention, but it is only briefly mentioned in here, is the PC version will finally have the island, and from what I understand, all of the content in the game should now be in the PC version, which wasn't the case for last year. They were asked in the Q&A about whether community creations would also include the PC version with the cross-platform stuff, and they were a little bit more like they're still figuring that out because they've had problems with the PC version in the past. And one of the things they said is because of how customizable the PC version is, and because people can mod it and do other things to it, what they don't want to happen in a way is that they don't want someone to upload something to community creations that someone downloads on their console game and then it potentially causes issues within their console game because it's a modded version of a file or whatever.
Yeah.
And I can understand that. I think, it's nice to have new match types here. Some of these are returning, like we've had them in the games before. I Quit has been in the game before. Inferno has been in the games before. 3 Stages of Hell was in WWE games many, many years ago, but we haven't seen it for quite a while. And then Dumpster Match, I'm pretty sure, is pretty much a brand new thing. Like, it has previously shown up in one of the showcase modes, but other than that, I don't think it's ever actually been a selectable, playable match outside of that. And then, like, roster of over 400 superstars. Obviously, yes, there's going to be some superstars that have multiple versions. Yeah. But even then, even even without that kind of stuff, it's like they mention in here, you know, we're going to have like superstars like Rey Fenix, Rusev. You're going to probably have more NXT superstars than they've had previously. Like Trick Williams is probably going to be in this game, you know, and other people like that. So yeah, I think this is really interesting, and you know, I actually really like the cover, and I'm going to bring up the other covers here before we move on, just so you can see them. Because we did speak about them, but we've got the King of Kings edition, which should pop up now, hopefully. There we go. There's Triple H in all his
Photoshop chest.
Yeah. And then we, of course, have the Monday Night Wars edition, which will be coming up in just a second. And what I like about these covers is they are all unique and they all have a different flavor to them. Like, this is very, you know, like, this is very, with the gold and everything, it just makes you think, yeah, this is like the Legends. This is almost like the Legends edition of the game. Like, that's what you kind of think of. I mean, Triple H having an edition is a little bit weird, but, you know.
I mean, he's not in charge of picking it, even though people assume he is.
And then I really like the CM Punk cover. Like, it's quite understated and quite normal, but I think it suits Punk quite well. And there's obviously text on there, best in the world, and all those kind of things.
They should have an AJ's husband edition.
That would have been cool. And I do think, you know, it's important to mention, as mentioned in the press release by Punk himself, he is one of only a handful of superstars to ever be on the cover of a WWE game twice. So, and interestingly for him, it's 13 years after he was previously on the cover of WWE 13 back in the day, before 2K took over the franchise. So, yeah, I think this is really good. I do know a couple of other things that they don't mention in this press release. So, Wade Barrett and Booker T will be available on commentary this time around. They've added both of them to the commentary lineups. And also I asked them, so this is an important one to mention, I asked them about accessibility in the games and how they have looked to improve that or are considering improving that. And one of the things they said is that accessibility for them is really, really hard because the game actually requires some quite complex inputs at times, which it does. It's playable for me, but I'm very fortunate. Some people with disabilities don't have the ability like I have to use a controller in the same way as someone without a disability, right?
I kind of wish that the games would have some type of like simple control setup that even if it allowed you, even if it prevented you from doing certain things, that there was still ways, like if they did like, you know, a very basic one, like low punch, high punch, you know, low kick, high kick, and then you combinations of those types of stuff. Cause like, I would love like an arcade wrestling game again. Like those were so fun.
Yeah. And one of the things they said is basically, unfortunately, this year, it sounds like they haven't really added any accessibility stuff. However, they did make it very clear to me that they are looking into it and they are doing their research on accessibility to try and improve the games in the future. So it is in their mind, which is at least a very good thing. You know, and yeah, let's see how this game comes out very, very soon. Like we're basically a month away from this video game. Like, let's be honest, we're basically a month away. I will be reviewing it for the Outer Haven, but we're going to try and get Jeff some access to the game as well so that he can review it here at Analog Stick Gaming. And hopefully it will be a good time as we have a cat appear on the show. But now we do have some more gaming news to go through. So where do we want to go next, Jeff?
Let me bring up the old WordPad. All right. So the creative director of Ubisoft's long in development Beyond Good and Evil 2 has spoken up for the first time regarding the game to ensure that the progress is still going on. Last week, the Assassin's Creed publisher announced a significant organizational restructuring, which would see its development team split into autonomous creative houses. One of those houses was confirmed to include Beyond Good and Evil 2, which has now been in development in some form over the past 20 years. Its inclusion came as a surprise to some, since Ubisoft has seemingly been somewhat ruthless with the decision to cancel 6 games, including the remake of Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. If you're following some of the news regarding that game, the actress who was going to play the princess in that game, she found out on social media. However, creative director Fawzi Mesmer has now commented on Beyond Good and Evil 2's status and says that Ubisoft remains committed and focused on delivering a remarkable game for their players to enjoy. Myself, my team, and our project behind Beyond Good and Evil 2 are unaffected by the recent changes. Needless to say, I am saddened by the cancellation that has affected my colleagues, but I urge everyone, and myself included, to offer support whenever and however they can during these times. We remain committed and focused on delivering a remarkable game for our players to enjoy. So this is like one of those things where it's like Ubisoft is like super interested in letting us know that this game is like still in development after like some 20 years. Like, does anyone care at this point?
Yeah, I think that it's a weird one because I think that people will care when they actually re-reveal it and show it again.
I think people will only care when they're playing it. I don't think like Ubisoft could show this game 3 times over the next year, but no one's going to think it's real until they're actually playing it. Like, yeah, with how long it's been, like, is this even Beyond Good and Evil 2 anymore? Like, is it really, like, are we even going to see a refinement of what we saw, 4, 5, 6 years ago? Or is that just been entirely scrapped? So I think players are only going to care when they're playing it.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. That's is a good point. And I think it raises the question of like, because one of the things that we don't have on the doc here, but I wanted to bring up was recently Crimson Desert released a massive like features video that's around 15 minutes long, and it seems to have finally convinced people that the game is actually real and is actually doing what they're saying it's doing. And I was speaking to people at the Outer Haven yesterday about how I don't understand what has happened in the world of gaming where people are not believing a game is real, even when people have played it and have told you they've played it and this is what it is. Like,
it's a conspiracy.
Like, it's so strange to me because it's, but that's kind of why I relate it to Beyond Good and Evil 2, because I can absolutely appreciate that. I think we've got to the point now where people, unless you're really into gaming, unless you are like us, and you probably are if you're listening to this show, but unless you're like really into gaming where you play more than a handful of games a year, you generally don't care about seeing a game before you're playing it anymore. Like, that's gone away. That time, for whatever reason, has disappeared. I know people that didn't even know some of the major games from last year existed until they heard about it directly from a friend or whatever, And yeah, I think that we're just in a really weird time where, like you say, until people are actually playing something, it's almost like everything is too good to be true these days.
Well,
everyone wants to think everything is
shots and like all sorts of stuff. I mean, like, people, like, there's still like a massive amount of audience that don't know what optimization is, and they don't understand why the game does not look as good as it did during a preview.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I have no idea. Like, as I mentioned the other day, I've got a good I have a video about Fable on the Outer Haven YouTube channel. And one of the things that I really hammer down on there is, like, people are criticizing the performance of that game or that demo that we saw, when that demo was probably recorded months before we even saw it, and the game is still months away, so it doesn't represent the quality that you will actually see when you're playing the game. That doesn't mean it's not going to have an issue or two. I'm not saying that. No game comes out perfectly. But why people really think that what you see in these previews and showings is 100% reflective of the final game is beyond me. And that's why I can understand, like I said, the Beyond Good and Evil 2 situation, where people probably won't believe it until they have their hands on it. But even the Crimson Desert situation, I saw two interesting tweets yesterday when they released this video. And let me put it this way. One guy was like, I have to apologize to Crimson Desert. I didn't understand your game, and now I do, because I think that now it's in a features video and it's been shared by PlayStation and people have seen a significant chunk of the game, and we're getting closer to launch and it doesn't really look any different than it did before. I think people are realizing, oh, okay, this actually is the game. This is one of those few times where the game that they showed previously and the game that people played previously is the game that's coming out. And then I saw another tweet by a different person that went, I don't know what it is, but I just have this feeling that something isn't right with Crimson Desert. And they even put, I really hope I'm wrong, but I just have this feeling. And in my head, I was like, where does this automatic skepticism come from when it comes to video games? Because when it comes to movies and television shows and things, we don't really have that same skepticism. People get excited for movies and just get excited and get caught up in the hype and react to trailers and all this kind of stuff. And when it comes to games, it's almost like the inverse, where people are always negative first and then positive later. Where do you think that comes from, Jeff?
I think it's just like a lot of games have kind of misled. Like when you're watching, say like a trailer for a movie, not much is going to change because it's real. Like it's real people making things and stuff. So then when the movie comes out, they're like, oh yeah, it looks exactly the same.
That's true.
So with the video game and stuff, we've had, things like Watch Dogs and whatnot.
Yes.
We've had the downgrade thing. We've got the Spider-Man with the puddles. Like when the game comes out, there's been months and months and months to refine and fix certain things. But it's just a lot of people don't know about the process. I mean, like, even the God of War director was talking about how like 6 months before the game shipped, it looked unplayable. Yeah,
I heard a conversation at one point where 6 months before the game came out, Shuhei Yoshida, who had the control at that time, almost considered canceling the game. Like, apparently there was a real conversation about whether the game should actually come out or not. And that was close to launch. Like, things come together in the final months in ways you wouldn't believe. And, I wouldn't be shocked if, as we were saying, Beyond Good and Evil 2, whether it's actually Beyond Good and Evil 2 or not, I wouldn't be shocked if it's actually a completely different game than what we saw previously.
Yeah, I wouldn't be a bit surprised because, I mean, even when we saw it the second time, Paige and Jade were just not really featured as prominently. You weren't even playing as Jade. You were playing as another character, and it was like a prequel. And then Jade had powers and all the evil and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see if that game ever comes out. But now, what else do we have in the news?
All right, so sticking it with Ubisoft. Following last week's announcement of a major company reset, Ubisoft has proposed the elimination of up to 200 jobs at its headquarters in Paris, France, or around 18% of its staff. Last week, the publisher announced a significant organizational change that would see teams split into autonomous creative houses. As part of this restructuring, the publisher will also be rolling out cost-cutting initiatives, it said, and its role at the France HQ will be refocused on governance, strategic prioritization, and capital allocation. In an email sent to staff on Monday, the company said that it has entered negotiations for a rupture conventional collective, the RCC, a voluntary mutual termination agreement that allows French companies to reduce their workforce through negotiations with unions. The proposed proposal applies exclusively to Ubisoft International employees with French contracts that could result in up to 200 positions being cut in France. However, no decision will be final until a collective agreement is reached with unions and validated by French authorities. So this is again, we were talking about how this restructuring was going to result in the termination of some jobs, and that seems to be kind of what's going on. They're reshuffling Ubisoft France into more of a process-driven type of organization than game development. So
yes, yeah. I mean, it doesn't shock me because with any restructuring, there always comes these kinds of things, because at the end of the day, when you're restructuring, part of that is slimming down, right? Part of that is figuring out where you can make cuts because potentially you don't need people that you previously did need in your old way of working. So it doesn't shock me at all. Yes, obviously it's never nice for people to lose their jobs, but I think that at the end of the day, this is, as I discussed before, I actually do think this is a positive move overall for Ubisoft in the long term, and I think it will improve the products they make. I would be shocked if it doesn't. So I'm not really, massively negative about this news. I do understand that it's obviously disappointing to have people lose their jobs, especially in big numbers. But hopefully these people can land on their feet and find work somewhere else fairly soon.
And it's not a final thing. They do have to propose proper legislation with a lot of this stuff to make sure that everything is above board. So It may not be 200. It may be 150. Who knows?
Yes.
But
we'll see, and we'll report on it as we get more updates, of course. What else do we have in the news this week, Jeff?
The co-director of Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy has confirmed the decision to stick with Unreal Engine 4 for its third game, explaining the reasoning behind it. The first two games, Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, both made use of Unreal Engine 4, and players wondered if Square would move up to Unreal Engine 5 to conclude the chapter. Back in 2024, the director Naoki Hamaguchi told Japanese publication CG World that the studio was considering switching to Unreal Engine 5, stating that it was assessing the pros and cons of such a move and that it was possible but not certain. Hamaguchi then told the publication that players wanted to see the final version as soon as possible, and Square Enix would investigate whether switching to Unreal Engine 5 would accelerate this, or whether it would be the best to make the entire trilogy in the same engine. Now, in a new interview with GameSpot, Hamaguchi has confirmed that the studio has gone for the latter option and that the third game will also be developed using Unreal Engine 4. We've been using the engine, but we've also made modifications to fit our needs. It's more beneficial to have something that we've already been familiar with and have customized it to fit our needs. So this is not a surprise Honestly, when I was reading this article, I was like, yeah, of course they're going to stick with something that essentially makes their lives easier as opposed to relearning all new tech. Um, I mean, mostly new tech. I mean, Unreal Engine 5 is an evolution of 4 in a lot of ways. So like there obviously would be some similarities. But yeah, like I'm not surprised that we're seeing Unreal Engine 4 being used to close out the chapter. So
I agree, because it's not just about them having to learn new elements of Unreal Engine 5, but it's also about the fact that if they move to Unreal Engine 5, they would have to rebuild lots of assets and animations and other things that can't simply be ported over. So it would actually make the process of development significantly longer. And not only that, but why would you do that when in reality you've already got so many of the assets you need to finish off this game? Like they already have these assets made in Unreal Engine 4, right? Why are they going to put more work on their plate than they need to? And it's not about taking shortcuts and being lazy. Before anyone says that, I hate the term when people say, oh, this developer's lazy or that developer, is like, no, they're not lazy. They're trying to, you know, make their life a little bit easier, because I don't know if you're aware, Jeff, but making video games is very hard. And I think some people don't appreciate that. So to me, as when I saw this news as well, I was kind of like, yes, that's exactly the decision that I would make. Would I love, as a gamer, would I have loved them to go to Unreal Engine 5 instead in some ways, because the game would look a lot better, the game would do certain things a lot better, but it would also perform worse on PC. Let's remember that. And it would probably have more issues in other ways as well, because they're less familiar with that version of Unreal Engine. So I think it's absolutely the right choice. And I think that it means that we'll see the game sooner rather than later. Because like I said, they've already made a lot of the assets and things they need. So it's only making new assets for the third installment that they need to do, rather than remaking everything they've already made in terms of assets and making all the new stuff as well. It's going to save them so much time, and I do think it's the right decision for them.
Yeah, I mean, we're also looking at those games coming to like Switch 2 and Xbox. So again, like the porting aspect of bringing those games over will be a lot easier as well too. So.
Absolutely, and those games so far seem to have done well on those platforms. And they did confirm, I think it's been pretty much confirmed, that the third installment will be day one everywhere. I think that's kind of what they're putting across, is like there will be no exclusivity for the third installment. So
now Square won't be able to complain about the game not selling.
Yeah, that's very true. But let's continue, because we still have a few more news bits. Where do we want to go next?
All right. So Highguard loses all of its player base in just 2 days after launch. Highguard was a very controversial launch based on its buildup. It's been hyped as the next big thing in the first-person shooter genre, but turned out to be a generic experience. At least it seems, with its days already being numbered. On Steam, the title debuted with a decent player count of around 100K. However, around 2 days after launch, Highguard has now lost almost all of its player base, losing close to 80% of its audience, with 19K peak players today. Why it matters. So Highguard was destined for success, but it wasn't a title that would have been this received badly if it hadn't been the hype surrounding it. Mm-hmm. Highguard, the game had just a 19K 24-hour peak player count on Steam and currently has less than 8K players, which is a huge 90% dip from its initial peak. This rings alarm bells for the title already. While it hasn't turned out to be Concord 2.0 as it was being dubbed, it doesn't surprise a lot of people either. On the surface, it isn't a bad game. It's just a very average experience where nothing really stands out too much. The reviews are also mostly negative on Steam. However, based on the hype, players have been expecting a lot. They've had a lot of genuine complaints around, including a map that isn't suited for the 343 format, plus the usual terrible optimization, even on high-end graphics cards. I saw the Skill Up thing where he was saying that even on his PC, like he's just experiencing a ton of like bad optimization and some frame rate issues. And
so I can talk to that a bit because I have been playing it on PC, so I might as well bring in my Highguard impressions into here because it's relevant to this news. As you know, I have a very high-end PC. For PC folks, I have an AMD 9950X3D CPU, which is arguably the best CPU that you can get right now on the market. And I have an NVIDIA 5090 graphics card. So I should be able to brute force any game into having good performance even when the optimization isn't good, right? In most cases, that's true. In Highguard, it's interesting because frame rate wise, I'm not really having issues. Frame rates are good. Where you do have issues is like there's a high level of pop-in this game, and it doesn't need to based on how the game looks, it doesn't need to have it. It doesn't need to have such an aggressive pop-in. Like, load things in a little bit sooner and stuff like that. I've had a couple of weird textures here and there, but not as many as other people. And I would say my opinion on Highguard is I think that some of the negativity around the game is definitely forced. I think some of it is we're going to jump on this game because we don't like that it was shown as the last thing at the Game Awards.
Yeah.
I absolutely think that some of the negativity is that, and the fact that, you know, the Steam reviews, to be quite honest, I take no notice of because I looked through them and there's people on there who have played 0.1 of an hour of the game, which means they only did the tutorial, and yet they've left a review that's negative about the game. And it's like, I'm sorry, but there's no game that you can play where you only play the tutorial and you can really give a fair opinion on it. Like, that shouldn't even be allowed. And that's another conversation, but I think there should be a minimum time that you have to play of a game to leave a Steam review, in my opinion.
I think past the return policy so that it would prevent people from just buying a game, doing the review, and then.
I agree. And that would be a really good way. So Highguard, how do we talk about Highguard, Jeff? I mean, this game's interesting because it's obviously not dead. It's obviously not. Well, I'll say why. It's obviously not dead because people are still playing it. It has lost a significant portion of its audience, which obviously is not a good sign. But I kind of agree with what the article says, where I don't actually think there's anything bad about this video game. I'm just not sure that there's anything amazingly good either. Like,
for me, I think there's plenty bad. The maps are not designed for 3x3.
I agree with that.
The bases you have are not designed for 3x3. No. All you can do to defend your base is reinforce your walls, which can be destroyed in seconds with a variety of different abilities and skills and rocket launchers and stuff. So there's no design around that. It just you can't, you have the first 4 minutes of a round has no enemies whatsoever. You're basically building your defense. And then when you have to collect the shield breaker, it just shows you where it is.
Yeah.
Why?
It's to funnel people to that area, right? It's to make you engage.
It'd be more engaging going hey, is it spawn here? I'm no, oh, hey, they have it. It's over there. And then you're booking it after them.
Yeah, I agree.
When they're breaking through the shield, there's no way to stop that. You just have to allow it to happen. Yeah. I don't think the shooting feels terribly good as well too. I know a lot of people have been saying that's like the best part of the game, but I don't think the shooting feels that great. Yeah. And none of the characters, like it almost feels like the characters were designed first and then going, okay, we have these 9 elements or whatever. We need to funnel them into these different categories. And then they just picked people almost at random. They're like, that guy's red. He's going to be the fire guy. That guy's blue. Yeah. He's going to be the
almost like guy. They don't represent what they are kind of thing.
No.
Yeah.
So like for me, there's like bad design choices all around a game that should be competent based on what these developers.
Yeah. And that's where I differ slightly, because let me make this very clear. I don't think the game is a good game. I think it's an okay video game that you could potentially have fun with a group of your friends playing for a session or two, right? And it does have potential. I think they've made some really fundamental mistakes, though. And that's what I call them. I call them mistakes. I don't call them bad. Because in isolation, every single element they have in this game should work. The problem is they've pulled these elements from all these other places and jumbled them together in the hopes of creating something that is unique. And it almost seems like they haven't actually thought through how these elements are going to interact with each other. And you made a really good point there about like how, you can reinforce the walls, but it's largely meaningless because you don't ever have enough reinforcements to reinforce all the walls.
No, it's like, why can't you set traps? Why are there no turrets? Why do you not suddenly unlock like AI units that you can send out to like stop other players? Like,
yeah, I agree. And then the other thing is like, I agree with you that it's weird that once they start a raid, there is no way to stop them other than continuously killing them until the timer goes down so that they then run out of respawns.
If they had an area that they all had to stand in for that battering ram to continue going, and then if they were out, the battering would start going backwards.
Yeah.
So that you could literally stop it, and then it would.
You could sort of force them. Yeah, you could sort of force them to go. I agree, and I actually think the most fundamental mistake they've made, though, is limiting this game to 3v3, because if this was a 6v6 video game, but exactly the same video game on exactly the same maps, I think 6v6 would give people a completely different impression of this game.
Yeah, because you look at the maps and there's all this scale, but you're never there.
No, I agree.
If their head, like honestly, like I think that they should have just got rid of the crystals, and they should have just had like AI enemies that are color based. So if you're taking out some of the bigger guys, you're getting some of the better loot and whatnot, so that it would allow you to kind of explore these maps. Which
it would give you a reason. It would give you a reason to explore more, right? And I really think the 3v3 thing is for me, is the biggest mistake of the game, because I actually do agree with the majority of people where, is this the best shooting that I've ever played in a game? No. But I do think that the shooting is still good. And one of the things I do like about the game, to be fair, as I've played more, is like the way in which you can chain together certain things for movement is really impressive. Like I picked up the Stormbreaker in one of the games, right? And I had their whole team was chasing me, shooting at me. So I jumped on my mount. I was sprinting with my mount. The mount's sprint basically ran out. So I hopped onto a zip line, and then I jumped off of the zip line straight back onto my mount and continued going at full pelt and managed to get the Stormbreaker in. And we won that game in like 8 minutes because we destroyed the core of their base. But it was like that play was something that you cannot do in other games. The fluidity of movement that is possible in this game in certain situations, because of how the mounts work and because of how the maps are designed to a certain degree, is really good. I do enjoy that element of it. But again, I hate going around this map. Like, you reinforce your base at the beginning, yeah? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now you have 5 minutes to gear up. Go and gear up yourself. And it's like, yeah, okay. But there's no pressure in that gear up phase. Because the map is so big, during the gearing up phase, you never really run into another player. Unless you're specifically going really far away from your base, you never have a reason during the gear up phase to run into another player from the opposite team. And what that means is there's no pressure in the looting situation. And it makes it uninteresting from that perspective. The only interesting gameplay part of this game is when you're actually in a raid and like you've either started a raid or you're defending from a raid, because that's the moment when you engage actively with other players consistently, right? If they had more players per a team, that would eliminate a vast majority of the issues with this game, in my opinion. On the character designs, I kind of agree that they don't match what they are, and that is disappointing.
Well, you look at the main sword guy. He's an electrical user.
Yeah.
There's nothing that sells that based off that character's look.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially like given that those are the default looks. What I will say, one area that I think they have done quite well with this game in terms of the characters is if you look at the stuff, if you look at like the cosmetics you can unlock for them, they do actually have some quite cool cosmetics. And even the mounts have, like, I'm riding around on a bear, but you can get a tiger, you can get all these different things. And it's like, so I think that what disappoints me most about this game is that I can see what they're going for, but I think they've made a couple of critical mistakes that are in danger of potentially killing the game unless they rectify them very quickly. Yeah. So we'll see what they do with that. But do we have any news remaining before we get into the other games we've been playing?
The last one's just kind of a quick one here. Amazon Game Studios has lost its studio head. Amid huge company-wide layoffs, Amazon Game Studios boss Christoph Hartmann is leaving the company. The head of Amazon Game Studios, Christoph Hartmann, is parting ways with the company amidst layoffs that have cut around 16,000 jobs across Amazon. The move comes as Amazon winds down its gaming ambitions, shifting focus to its cloud gaming service, Luna. Hartmann's departure has been reported by Bloomberg's Jason Schreier on the same day that Amazon announced a massive round of layoffs that will impact around 16,000 people company-wide. The move follows a previous round of layoffs last October that cut 14,000 jobs, hitting Amazon Game Studios particularly hard as the company scaled back its AAA development projects. So, I mean, as soon as I saw that their New World game was kind of shuffling down and they were kind of like going, hey guys, you're going to have like 1 year left to play this thing. I knew something was absolutely up, that they were, kind of scaling back and getting rid of it.
I mean, I find it really interesting because if you actually look at Amazon's games, some of them have been quite successful. And I don't understand what Amazon expected from the AAA gaming space. Like, did they think they were going to come in and every game they did was going to be a Fortnite? Like, it almost feels like, you know how, like, I hate to make this comparison, but look at Google, right? Google created the Stadia platform and they initially were all in on it and they made this big investment. They hired some brilliant people and they got some brilliant games on exclusive deals and things. And then before they even really allow their platform to launch properly, they pull the plug. And it's almost like it's because they realize, oh, this is going to take longer than we thought, and not every single thing is going to be a hit. And it's like, I get that from the outside, these companies probably see gaming and they go, oh, look, they've spent 100 million and they're making 2 or 3 billion return on that, in some of these cases. But at the same time, how often does that really happen? And I think that that's what they're not looking at. As soon as I saw this news, my major concern was, how does this affect Crystal Dynamics and Tomb Raider?
Mm-hmm.
Because although Crystal Dynamics aren't owned by Amazon, the Tomb Raider games are being paid for and funded by Amazon because Amazon owns some sort of rights to the IP.
Well, I think with them scaling back, I think it's not that they're completely obliterating their games division. And I think Tomb Raider will probably be the one exception. I think they'll be immune from all of it. Because Tomb Raider is like, they have the show or the movie or whatever it is.
And also it's a known guaranteed quantity, right? Like, that's the thing, is like, they would be silly to cancel Tomb Raider because Tomb Raider has a guaranteed audience. It's one of those few franchises that there are certain franchises in gaming, and Jeff can attest to this, where every single time there's a game in that franchise, people who've played that franchise will buy it regardless.
Yeah, I got
it. And Tomb Raider is one of those franchises where, my partner Letitia, who's done a couple of reviews for us, she's a massive Tomb Raider fan, and I guarantee you that even if those Tomb Raider games come out and they're average games at best, she'll buy them and play them because it's her franchise. And for a lot of people, Tomb Raider is their franchise. So I hope that nothing happens with the Tomb Raider games, but that was the concern that I had when I saw this news, for sure. But now I guess we should talk about some things we've been playing. And we spoke about High Guard already. So I'm going to let you go first, Jeff, and I'm going to bring up the game because I've only played the first little bit. And I had an issue with this game from the first little bit that I've played that I will explain as we see the gameplay here. But tell people what this game is that we're seeing.
Sorry, I am just responding to an email here. All right, so this is, I hate this place. I had a chance to check this out, and the review is out for right now. It's actually quite good. So the beginning part does have some voice acting that'll probably lead you to believe that the game is not, the quality is not there, but after this part is great. So you're basically performing this like a little ritual, and then it kind of goes wrong. But I mean, again, in dark satanic rituals, when do they ever go right? And it's based off a comic book series, and this is an original story within that comic book series. And you basically play as Elena, and she is trying to track down her friend Lou after this ritual goes bad. And it's kind of like I want to say a Diablo-ish type of isometric kind of game where you're kind of like melee or shooting various grotesque abominations and things. You explore like underground military bunkers that are part of a variety of different secrets across the farmland. It's got a town builder kind of thing for the farm where you're basically like putting like water towers and workstations and junk piles and stuff that you can collect resources and craft. It's actually really fun. Like you get a fair amount of weapons. There's like rifles, shotguns, and like flare guns and whatnot. And you're fighting a bunch of like cultists that have been mutated by drinking the blood of the Horned Man, which is this like supernatural entity that's kind of at the heart of the game. And I kind of like the way that they kind of go with it. And you got a flashlight which illuminates just the right amounts of things with like proper shadow work and whatnot. So it looks really good. I do think it's weird that your inventory is on the right and what you're collecting is on the left.
Yeah, because that actually messes me up later in the gameplay because I delete something by accident. I'm not.
Yeah, that's one part that's a little weird. But like it's got like a comic book vibe. So like when fire crackles, you see like the word crackle and whatnot, and you're basically exploring like again, like a lot of it's like underground bunkers and stuff where you're like getting key cards and stuff to track down certain
fast
things.
forward a bit here.
But basically you're interacting with a lot of like cult members and stuff where they're aware of Elena and her family and stuff. And Elena's trying to solve the mystery of her mom going missing when she was a child. And the resolution for that is well handled. Like it definitely does have like an ending where like I kind of hope that they do make a sequel. Because like it does a really good job at like you get like all the red intestines and all that kind of stuff that are littered all over the ground. There's like mutated deer that and spiders and a lot of environmental storytelling. So you kind of go into this vault here, and this guy basically is like, "Hello, Elena." It's like, "How do you know my name?" It's like,
his voice acting is actually good though.
Yeah, like a lot of the voice acting, like I would say, like Elena gets better. Banter. Just threw his ball on top of my keyboard. And I rolled back and then roll back over again. Oh, I typed bracket P8 in the chat. Nice. All right.
Nice.
Yeah, like you kind of go around to these areas and kind of explore their halls and then fight monsters. And some of the things are like tendrils that grab your legs and pull you towards them, and you have to like shoot them or like melee them. There's enemies that kind of stalk by sound. And you kind of stealth around them and whatnot. It is a solid, fun game. It's been getting kind of mixed reviews, and I can see why some people aren't too fond of certain things. You walk on glass and you make noise and whatnot, or you walk through like the gunk on the ground and it makes like louder effects depending on how fast you're going and whatnot. The map you get is just based on the wall. So you have to find a key. So you'll go and you'll crouch underneath the desk there.
I actually changed the settings here just to kind of test different things out, because you may have noticed in the gameplay there were a couple of frame drops in that area, and I wanted to see whether it was a weird settings thing or whatever. And what I figured out was, if you're playing on PC, turn off VSync, even if your monitor only goes up to a certain frame rate, because that was causing those weird stutters there. But yeah, so I was doing that. I want to talk about an issue that I had with this game, Jeff, and you'll notice it in a minute. Is it over here? Yeah. It took me ages, and I'm not joking, like, it took me around 10 minutes or something to actually find out where I had to go. And it was because there's a vent in the wall. You have to, like, go through a vent, but because of the way the camera's positioned, you can't see the vent until you're right next to it. So I'm, like, trying to get in this door. I'm trying to go over here. I go over here like 5 times, and then there's a vent down in the kind of to the right of you at the moment, but you don't see it, right? Until I go right over there, you don't see it. So it's really like, and I've had a couple of occasions like that so far where I like the atmosphere and everything like that, and I like the comic book style, and I definitely want to play more of this game because I think it's going to be incredibly fun. But when you have to go into places that you can't even see until you're stood right next to them, I think that makes it slightly annoying, is what I would say. It wasn't like a game breaking, oh my god, but like I say, I spent minutes going backwards and forwards, like, is there something I need to interact with? And I just, yeah, and then eventually I find the I'm trying to hit the thing with the bat. And then I go all the way back to where that guy was, because I was like, is there something over here? And then eventually I find the way through, and I go into the other room and stuff, and I turn the machine on. And then I have the issue. So I speak to the guy. I go into the safe room, which is cool because that just reminded me of like Resident Evil, like taping on, saving on VHS tapes is really cool. But then here was in the inventory where I just make a mistake and I delete the cans when I'm trying to like drag over the other stuff. It's so that was weird. I'd rather if the inventory was on the left-hand side. I think that's a strange decision.
Yeah. That part's sort of weird. And like when you have your stash, if you just hit X at any point, it brings everything over from your stash to your body.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, that part's a little weird, but
other than that, my initial impressions of this game is that if you like survival horror and you like comic books, you should probably give this game a go. Like, I think it's going to be a good one based on what I've played so far, because it has all the right sort of. It has all the right sort of elements for a good survival horror games. Like, I find a blueprint for a gun in a minute. There is, so I find the blueprint for the gun, and then there's a thing on the wall here, and I put 1, 2, 3, 4 because I'm trying to just guess the number because I have no idea where to find that number for the gun on the wall.
Yeah.
But I'm really like, my initial impression is, this game's very impressive, and when I have more time when I'm not working on all the things that I'm working on for review, I'm definitely going to be playing more of it. Very, very impressed by it. So thank you for getting me access to that video game, Jeff. And everyone make sure that you go and read Jeff's review that's up on the website right now. And speaking of reviews that are on the website, you may or may not have seen that I have also reviewed Cairn, which is this lovely climbing game here. And yes, you move one foot and hand and all these things at a time. But the thing that makes Cairn a special video game to me is what you can discover along the way and what you like, the story it tells, and there are also survival elements to this game. So climbing is... Go on.
The stick that he's got reminds me of like when a big dog is trying to carry a stick through the door and it goes past the door frame. And they're trying to, and they can't get in.
Mm-hmm.
So like how he has it, he would get stuck. On the little like passageways. But anyways.
Yeah. So the core mechanic of the game is obviously climbing, and your goal is to essentially summit this mountain that has never been summited by anybody before. And you start off in a little tutorial room teaching you the basic mechanics, and then you're set free onto the mountain effectively. What you don't necessarily realize at first is this also is a light survival sim, because you have to eat and drink. And when you're going, like, I find a place here with bees and stuff, and I can find a recipe because in your tent, which is called a bivouac, you can cook food, which you can then eat to obviously fill up your hunger, but also giving you different buffs, like having you be able to last out certain weather conditions more easily. I pick up a bit of honey there, and it's like you have to kind of, yes, you're climbing, but the goal isn't just climb from A to B straight up the mountain. You have to, the survival elements of the game force you to look around and engage with the kind of environmental storytelling they do. And you can, as you can see here in the gameplay, like, you'll find these messages from other people that have been on the mountain previously, and you'll hear about their interactions with others, and then you might find their bodies later, or you might find out what actually happened to them in the end, and things like that. It's really, really interesting. And the climbing mechanics, as someone who is actually a fan of climbing to a certain degree, the climbing mechanics are really cool because they function exactly how you would expect them to function.
It just reminds me of co-op, like where you're trying to control the legs and stuff, and baby steps to a certain point. But co-op is like just where you are, like you have like the legs going and stuff, and then you climb up. And
definitely. And the game does a pretty good job in the sense that it will select for you which leg or arm to move next, and usually that will be the best option. But you can also gain full control and access and do things the way you want to by holding the right bumper and then moving the left stick to select one of your limbs in order of choosing which one to move. And then you also have elements like you can recycle. You have a little robot there with you, and you can use him to recycle different kind of rubbish and waste that you find into climbing chalk, which you can then put onto your hands and feet, and it will improve your grip for a certain period of time. So there are certain rock faces and things that you're going to find very difficult to get up without having chalk. But yeah, as you look around, you'll find different things. Like here, I find a vending machine of some sort.
Yeah, why is a vending machine on the mountain?
I have no idea. And like I say, you can use like I didn't take the stickening slop, but you can use some of these things to kind of help you survive, right? So this is a light survival game, but it's also very heavy on storytelling. Like, this is actually a narrative for how much of a systems and kind of gameplay physics game this is. The amount of narrative it has is unlike any other game that I've played within this style ever. It's actually crazy, and unfortunately, it's not available on Xbox. It's only on PC and PlayStation currently. But if you have any of those platforms, I definitely recommend playing it, because at the moment, and obviously we're very early in the year, but at the moment, this is my game of the year. Because it's outstanding. Like, I think it's great. I think it's a good climbing game. I think it's a great story game. I think it has the right balance of having survival elements to make you look around and stay engaged consistently, but not being so difficult that you find them frustrating. And yeah, I really, really enjoy it. Like, I'll go a bit further into the gameplay here, and you'll see, like, there we go. So there's good. So like so that you'll see like the shaking, and that's like when your grip is kind of not getting, not doing too well, and then you can like stick these pitons into the wall, which allow you to hang off of them using a rope to regain your stamina. But you could also just fall and break your legs,
I clipped based on you were climbing that wall, and it looks like the legs were broken.
But yeah, so you've got health, you've got hunger, you've got.
I like the bag. That tips over and stuff. That's neat.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really, really cool. Like, it's a very cool video game, and although not everyone will like the climbing mechanics, I would say that if you can get past, even if you're not a fan of climbing, if you can deal with the climbing mechanics for the rest of the game and for the story it tells, I would absolutely recommend this game to everyone. Like, it's brilliant. It's like, it's just shockingly brilliant. I don't know which other way to put it. And you can rest. Like, I rest here because it's raining, so I try and rest past the rain, but you can't rest for too long because your hunger and your thirst and hydration will deplete over time, even while you're resting. And then I'm like, okay, let's try and get back up this thing now. But I did run into one bug while playing the game, which was the pistons that you can use to stick in the wall and give yourself like a little reprieve from climbing. At a certain point, they were just completely kind of grayed out for me, and I couldn't use them even though I had several of them. And that meant that while the game is still, you can absolutely complete the game without using those, right? But what it did mean is it makes your job a lot harder because you have to be very, very careful about where you climb and all those kind of things. Because just like in real life, if you're free soloing, which is climbing without any equipment, i.e. a rope or pittons, etc., if you make a wrong step and you fall, you're going to die. And you can die in this video game. Like, so you can potentially lose, well, depending on how you play and what difficulty you're on and stuff, you could potentially be climbing for hours and then fall and die and lose that progress if you haven't found a safe point / campsite that you can save at.
Like that
during that time
where you're going up and you see people like just falling through like all of the mess of the tornado of stuff that you can climb. Those are always fun.
Let me see, because I don't know if it's this gameplay. Yeah, so just here, as I get to this, so this is like I summit a little rock face here, and then as I come up to the top, what you'll see is I encounter another broken robot that is basically your climbing assistant, and this broken one that I encounter is obviously somebody else's assistant, and it's trying to find its own way back down the mountain.
Yeah.
So it's like, so you have that, and that over there on the wall, the red paint area, that's where you can kind of save and place your tent. So I start heading over towards there, and then it kicks in a little cutscene, and there is voice acting. The voice acting is good. It's very emotive, and it's understated in the way that it's written and things, but the emotion that they actually get through in the kind of scenes that there are.
This is very touching. This little robot guy. He's like, "Hey, where's your owner, bud?"
Yeah. Honestly, I cannot recommend this game anymore. I gave it a 10 out of 10 on our review scale. It's certainly the best game I've played so far this year, and actually, this is one of my favorite games in a really, really long time. I really would recommend it to everybody, and even Jeff, I would recommend it to you, because I do think this is a game that we will be talking about. Should you play it, we'll be talking about it at the end of the year, I believe.
Like the quad moving is my only part of the game where I'm like, eh.
Yeah, I thought that would be, and that's why I kind of mentioned I don't think everyone will like the climbing aspect of the game, because you're either into that or you're not. But everything else about the game, I would be shocked if anyone dislikes it. And you can see, for example, over on Open Critic, which I'll bring up right now, because our review is obviously on there as well, you can see that the game at this very moment in time is averaging at an 87 Open Critic score with a 90% of critics recommending. Okay? And that's from 48 reviews. So it isn't just me that loves this video game.
Not just me saying it. Sports Illustrated is saying it. Bleacher Report is saying that.
IGN, GameSpot. So IGN gave it a 9. GameSpot 9. Who else have we got on here?
Gave it a 9.25.
Yeah, and then we've got like let's have a look. Let's have a look at the review charts here because I know we weren't the only ones to give it a 10. So we've got some other. So Jewel Shockers gave it a 9.5. A website called Xbox Tavern gave it a 10. Gamer Social Club gave it a 10. Saving Content gave it a 10. And CG Magazine, who've obviously been around for quite a while, also gave it a 10, along with us. And then you've got places that gave it a 9.5, like Jewel Shockers, Mashable. And then we've got PC Gamer gave it a 91, or you might as well round that to a 9 out of 10. IGN 9 out of 10. GameSpot 9 out of 10. Mm-hmm. Like, it's honestly a really, really good game. And I get that not everyone's going to like it. Like, even when you read the reviews, you will see that there's one 3 out of 5 review on there from Region 3. And there's a couple of 3.5s out of 5 and a couple of 7s out of 10.
Yeah.
But everything beyond that is like 7.5 or upwards. And the vast majority of the reviews are actually 9 or above. So I really, honestly, it's the highest recommendation that I can give to a game. Like, if I could give them an award now, I would. Like, I really recommend it. I hope that Jeff plays it by the end of the year, because I do think it will be, at least on my end, it will be in contention for at least a couple of our awards, I think. But what else have you been playing, Jeff?
I have been catching up on a few things that have been kind of going on sale and stuff. So I bought like Lost Soul Side. I still haven't played it yet, but I've been playing Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. And I've actually quite liked it. I mean, I can definitely see some of the criticism that people have had with it, and maybe why it didn't capture audiences like I think that people have been waiting years for, because the first one is so beloved, but that also took a long time for that game to become beloved. So this one is you play as a character known as the Nomad. It's kind of like a vampire of legend. You've awakened in Seattle, and you're kind of like trying to determine how you ended up there, why you've got a mark on your hand, and why another vampire who is a detective has lost his physical form, but he's in your head. And you kind of are determining like what happened, and you pick a faction to essentially join, and that's how you get your powers, and then you can unlock other stuffs and kind of become a combination of certain things and stuff. So I'm trying to unlock the shadow powers right now. Nice. It's pretty fun. Like, the combat is a little basic, but I mean, once you start adding some of those powers and abilities, that starts to open up quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I think visually, I think it looks fairly decent. I do kind of wish that you could customize your vampire's face as opposed to just selecting hair options and things like that. But no, I like the dialogue. I like some of the dialogue choices. Some of them feel a little weird in regards to like the character saying they like this or they didn't like this when it's the only option.
Yeah.
It's like you have to like ignore a crucial part of the conversation if you don't want to piss them off, that kind of stuff. But I mean, that does make sense. But no, it's actually pretty good, and I like it's a game that I definitely do recommend if you can get it on sale, because like it definitely does entertain. Like, I have enjoyed it so far, and like, you know, I have the ability where my character will like kiss another player and then convert them to their side. So I'll do that in stealth, and then I'll watch them just kind of like go around and shoot and attack at people. Nice. You can glide around the city. You have to make sure that the masquerade is kept up, so you can't use your vampire powers around people, otherwise it will alert them. And I like how you can climb buildings with very little to like nothing around. So if there's like a ladder 10 feet in the air, you can still shuffle up and then get to the ladder and then go up. So the traversal is really, really good in terms of getting around the city. And it's like a small, like, I don't know, like 10 by 10 block kind of thing of Seattle that feels like Seattle. It's not actually Seattle. licensing's always been an issue with that city.
Yes.
But no, it is really, really fun so far.
Good.
I do like kind of where the story is going. I like some of the characters and like how you can choose certain sides or piss them off or whatever. So, but yeah, I've really been enjoying it.
Nice. Yeah, we've both been enjoying games, and there are obviously things that we've been playing that we can't yet talk about. So that for now brings us to the end of the episode. But I guess before we sign off, we should say that we do have several reviews coming up very soon. I will have one early next week and potentially a second one later next week. So make sure you're looking out for those. And then hopefully on the next episode of the podcast, I'll be able to speak about both of those games. But I'm just looking at our sheet because we keep track of game releases here because we like to be organized and decide who's reviewing what. And February is going to be full of video games, people. There's lots of cool video games coming out in February. Just to name a few, we've got Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, Neo 3, Yakuza Kiwami 3, High on Life 2, Reanimal, and of course at the end of February, Resident Evil Requiem. Like what a month for video games. Is going to be a very interesting one, and I hope that you will stick with us on Analog Stick Gaming and here on the Gaming Mix podcast to follow all of those video games and talk much more about them. And for now, is a goodbye from me. We will see you in the next one.
See you guys.